just talking to my cat, which really qualifies as talking to myself, I guess. But we are going to wait for a few more people who are signed up for the webinar to actually join us. I think they've already gotten with the whole Middle Eastern way. You know, we're not very time sensitive. So the people who are participating in today's webinar are all set on that front about being late. So just to keep you guys entertained as we wait for a few more people to sign in, it actually rained in Dubai last night, which was amazing because we don't get rain very often, so when it rains people tend to go a little nutty and you see people out in the street running around in the rain, which was nice actually. But I hear it's rather cold over there in Michigan, and I know we have some people online from Michigan, so enjoy that weather while you can. So I'm just sitting here in Dubai. It is 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. We've already put in a full day, and I'm very fortunate to have my two of my trusted staff people with me who are staying late to help support the webinar. So thank you, Arshi. Thank you, Mohit.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to go ahead and get started because I don't believe in punishing the prompt. I want to thank you for joining us. And I've listened to plenty of presentations about doing business in the Middle East before, and mainly they give you a 10,000-foot view. And what I like to do is give you more of a ground level view, some grassroots knowledge of how to do business in the Middle East and how to figure out where you and your company might fit in terms of the opportunity. So what I'm going to do is run through the presentation, and then at the end, feel free to ask questions. We want you to keep your sound on mute so that we don't get any audio feedback for now. But if you'd like to ask questions at the end, you can turn your sound back on, or you can type a question into the in the sidebar if you feel shy. So the agenda for today, first we'll talk a little bit about us, which is of course our favorite topic, and why we're here to help you. And then I'll go over some common misconceptions about doing business in the Middle East and things you should know in general. We'll talk about Expo 2020, the opportunities specific to the Expo, opportunities as a result of the effects hosting Expo will have on UAE in general. And then I'm going to give you some pointers about market entry and things to consider, and tell you a little bit about our trade mission, and then we'll take questions. Okay, so who we are. Channels Middle East and Africa is a multinational team of analysts and business development specialists. My partner and I, there on the far left corner of your screen, I'm American, she's Canadian, and on our team we have South Africans, Indians, Argentinians, Pakistanis, Kenyans. We have a little bit of everything, including a very handsome young man just below me who's my son. So it's a family business as well. We started in 2009 with individual company business development, and then the next year I was approached by the state of Pennsylvania about representing them, and I thought to myself, why not? Okay, I can do this, let's try. And that kind of launched a whole new segment of our business, which involves state economic development support. So through this work, we host trade missions, delegations, we do market intelligence assistance, distributor searches, due diligence, basically anything that's going to help a U.S. company enter and establish ongoing business in our region. In addition to the individual companies, we are the Arab Gulf Trade Representative for Pennsylvania, Maryland, Wisconsin, Virginia, Colorado, and we do project work through other state economic development agencies, including Michigan, my home state, Georgia, the Council of Great Lakes Governors, and the Eastern Trade Council, which is kind of a group of 12 states and their governors' offices. Mainly we work with SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprise, doing the same kind of work that we do with our direct clients. Just give you a little background about myself and why I do what I do, although I know that my team who are listening are probably groaning to hear this again and again, but it's important to me to tell you why I do what I do. because U.S. SMEs who learn how to export create jobs that support the economy, which translates to helping Americans support their families. And supporting American families means supporting my family and my friends. And so that's why I feel very passionate about the work that we do with American small to medium-sized enterprise. A little bit about me. I was a student at the University of Michigan, and I met some friends from Dubai, and I came to visit a couple times. And then when I graduated, one of my friends said, why don't you come to Dubai and look for a job? And being the kind of crazy person that I am, I said, okay, why not? I packed up everything. I sold my winter clothes, my car, my appliances, and I came to seek my fortune in foreign lands. I started my first company in Dubai with my partners when I was 23 years old. And since then, I've started and run regional distribution and tech product companies, publishing and design, merchandisers and promoters, retail stores. We have online businesses. So I've really, in a very organic way, done a lot of different businesses within different industry segments in this region for many, many years. I am the former president of the American Business Council, which is the AmCham chapter in Dubai and the Northern Emirates, and the chair emeritus of the Middle East Council of American Chambers of Commerce. And that's how I kind of got into this business, because I was meeting so many trade delegations and congressional delegations, and they all wanted to know, what are the opportunities here, how is market entry done, and all that. So at one point my husband said, why do you do this for free? Why don't you set up a company? And so I did. And I'm telling you this about myself because I want you to know that the knowledge that I'm sharing with you today is really firsthand experience. We have learned all the ins and outs the hard way, and I hope that by sharing this information with you, you can jump ahead and not make the same mistakes we did, or not take as long. I mean, the main thing about working with us is that we're here to help you jump ahead instead of having to make all those mistakes. So we've made some assumptions about you. Number one, we know that you're ready to get your foot wet in our region. UAE is more and more in the news all the time. I used to get quizzical looks when I told someone I live in Dubai. Now they immediately ask me, have you been skiing indoors? Are there really man-made islands shaped like countries of the world? What's it like on the Palm? I mean, all of those things now. Dubai is in the news and not something that people are thinking, are you living in tents or riding camels like it was when I first came here? They used to ask me that. So companies that find us typically have heard about the massive opportunities in development and wonder what the fuss is all about and whether it's truth or fiction. It's common that clients come to us when they get enough random inquiries to start considering the potential of our markets, and they come to terms with the fact that, if all these companies are coming to us and asking us, what if we went there and actually concentrated some business development effort there? That's one time when companies tend to come to us. The second time companies tend to come to us is when they've tried to do it on their own and they just get confused and discouraged, and then they come back and say, hey, can you give us some help? So is now a good time to enter our markets? Definitely. 10 years ago was a good time to enter this market. I have an American friend who has been here. She was here 8 years ago. She was the spouse of the regional vice president of General Motors, and she'd lived all over the world with him. And one day we were chatting about something, about trying to find something, because they don't have street names here, not very many, and there's certainly no addresses on the buildings. So she made a comment that if you can't make it in Dubai, you might as well hang up your spurs and go home. And that just kind of stuck with me, because Dubai and UAE is such a natural entry point for anybody who wants to do business in this region. And here are some reasons that you should consider doing business in the Middle East, particularly in the GCC countries. And when I say GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries are Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. So U.S. exports, the stats, U.S. goods exported to the Arab world in 2013 increased by 7.5%, while U.S. exports in general increased only 2%. In 2013, 2013 was the highest single-year sales volume ever. And of the U.S. exports in the Arab world, 75.7% were sold in the GCC countries. So then if you think about that, that means more go into these small countries along this Arabian Gulf then go into the rest of, Egypt, Morocco, Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan. In terms of the geography of it, it's quite a dichotomy in terms of the amount of exports that come in here. UAE has been the top U.S. export destination in the Middle East for 4 years running, and not just in the Middle East, but the exports from the U.S. to UAE are higher than India and Israel as well. People in these markets are predisposed to U.S. products and services. They recognize immediately the quality of American-made. One thing you should know about these countries, that the demographic is very young, they're growing, and they're wealthy. So opportunities are basically in every industry, but we're going to get into that a little bit more in depth as we start talking about Expo 2020. Some background about things you should know about doing business in the Middle East. I mean, I could do a whole 2 or 3 series webinars on things you should know about doing business in the Middle East, but I tried to summarize these as best as I could so I could share this information with you. Number one, it's important that you do understand your geography and how the GCC countries are different than the broader Middle East. This is not Egypt or Syria. It's business as usual in the GCC. We don't have that kind of political instability. It's very much, I mean, there's isolated incidents here and there, but overall it's politically stable and safe in comparison. I find that my American friends, and I include myself in this, if I hadn't come overseas, I probably wouldn't have the perspective that I do in terms of geography, because we come from such a large country of the United States. We don't really have a, spatial distance. I don't know if that's the right word, but we don't really have an idea of the distance between these countries in the Middle East. So I always like to explain the air distance between Egypt and UAE is the same as New York City and LA. So if there's something that's dangerous going on in LA and you were sitting in New York, would you really feel that there was any threat to your personal safety? I don't think so. So in terms of the geography, we are very much at a distance from anything that's going on, any hotbed of unrest. They love U.S. culture. Think about iPhone, Starbucks, IHOP, Beyonce, Big Mac, anything that's American, they really dig it over here. I used to lug back loads and loads of candles and lotions and body wash from Bath & Body Works. Now, I don't have to do that because we have Bath & Body Works here. Victoria's Secret, check. American Eagle, check. Apple Stores, check. Just about, well, Starbucks in abundance. Just about everything that you want as an American is now over here. So the only thing I don't have here that I really wish I did was Target. Once I get Target in UAE, I don't think I'll have to come home. And another thing you need to think about too is that when you're working in these countries, that a lot of the nationals and a lot of the expatriate population have been educated in U.S. universities. And those experiences that they have when they're in school in the U.S. are some of their fondest memories, and they love to talk about it. So that's just a little bit kind of a general overview of things that you should know before you come and look at these markets, that they're really much more similar to us than they are different. Common misconceptions. Okay, so a lot of times people think, we just had an email today from a company in Pennsylvania that was asking about translators, and we told them translators are not really necessary. You're not speaking Arabic. If you don't speak Arabic, it's not going to hinder your ability to do business in UAE or the GCC, because the large percentage of people here are expatriate workers from all over the world, and English is the accepted equalizer when it comes to business language. It may be a little challenging to decipher written communication once you start working with these people in these companies, but bear in mind the people you will be dealing with speak not only their mother tongue, but multiple other languages. So as Americans who have very limited number of language in our background, hats off to them that they're even able to speak as fluently in multiple languages. My second point, the streets are not paved with gold. Okay, although these companies have the highest per capita income in the world, Qatar being number 1, I believe UAE is number 3. The streets are not paved with gold. They are shrewd business people, and it's not only American companies who are chasing their business right now. It's the entire world. It's a buyer's market here, and so you need to be ready to deal. Another thing that's important, a misconception, is that I find when I work with American companies that they come over here and they expect that the way we do business in the U.S., it's going to be the same over here. And really, if you're doing business with them here, you need to expect that you'll need to adapt your business model to theirs. They do business differently in a different pace. Like if you were one of the people who was here when we first started the webinar, and I said that the people who came late were already on Middle Eastern business ways because they are not as sensitive to time, things start late. There's a lot of different ways that business is done here. And there will be a learning curve. It'll be challenging, but it'll be fun. And as I mentioned before, it is very much a price-sensitive market, but relationships matter more than price. So trust, doing business on a handshake is not that far in our past in the Middle East. They want to know who they're working with before they'll do business with you. It informs all of their commercial behavior. For example, in a business meeting for the first time, sometimes the second and third time, 3/4 of the time may be devoted to talking about non-business topics. They need to get to know you. They may ask you the same question more than once. So where price might get one deal, like you might get one big deal with a company here based on you having the most competitive price, but it really will be on establishing relationships that create sustainable business for you. Okay, so UAE, a great place to start. Let's look at these companies that are already here. Oops. Okay. UAE is a good starting point. Strongest indicator, look at all those Fortune 500 companies with headquarters in UAE. They headquarter here because it's a natural crossroads to the Middle East. It has the most pro-business, ease of doing business, government regulation. It's the most natural and modern transportation infrastructure in the region, the largest sea and airport in the region. It's a natural redistribution point for GCC countries and the Pan-Middle East, as well as Asia and Africa. So a lot of these big companies will set up here and re-export from here. The commercial development in UAE is more mature than the rest of the GCC. It's sophisticated and modern. They're welcoming and friendly to expatriate business communities. Hands down, it's the easiest market to start in. A lot of times when I talk about doing business in the Middle East, Americans will follow what's in the media, business media. And so a few years ago, well, 5 years ago it was all about UAE. Then 3 years ago it was all about Qatar. And then last year it was all about Saudi. People talk to me about doing business in Saudi Arabia. Yes, they are pro-American product. Yes, they have lots of money. Yes, they have lots of demand. But doing business in Saudi Arabia is very, very challenging. So I always encourage companies that we work with to go to the weakest point, go to the easiest market entry point before you jump into a place like Saudi Arabia and get discouraged. Come to where you're going to find the quickest opportunity and turnover for your business. Okay, so that brings us to Expo 2020. I'm not sure if everyone knows what Expo is. And I didn't when I first heard about Dubai bidding for the Expo 2020. For Americans, at least Americans in my age group, like the 25-year-olds out there, well, you'll probably recognize the concept of the World's Fair, not so much Expo, but it's rebranded and now it's called Expo. In November 2013, the UAE won the right to host the World Expo in Dubai in 2020, and this is the first time that the World Expo is being staged in the Middle East, which is really, really cool. It's one of the largest and most enduring global mega events. I've never been to a World's Fair or to an Expo for that matter, but it lasts for 6 months and attracts millions of visitors. And they will set it up on a huge purpose-built campus based on a theme. at which visitors explore and discover pavilions, exhibits, cultural events staged by hundreds of participants, like different country pavilions, international organizations, and businesses. So what are we getting ready for? So Expo 2020, 25 million visits, 70% of which will be from overseas. This is quite unique because normally an Expo host nation will attract the majority of the visitors from their own country. But because UAE is so small and so much of a transit hub, this is the first Expo in which the majority of visitors will stem from beyond a nation's borders. Expo 2020 will run from 20th October 2020 through 10th April 2021. The other really cool thing is that this Expo will launch the UAE's Golden Jubilee celebration, so 50 years as a nation. To begin with, it will be located on a 438-hectare site, which I don't know what that is. I mean, if any of you who are listening here to the webinar, if you know your handy-dandy conversion from hectares to square miles, whatever you think, you could chime in and give us some information. That would be great. It includes a dedicated gated 150-hectare expo area and a surrounding residential, hospitality, and logistics zone. So with each expo, they have some theme. Like there's Expo 2015, which is going on in Milan this year, and that is about food and food sustainability. So the theme for Expo 2020 is connecting minds and creating the future. It's all about the spirit of partnership and cooperation that's driven UAE's success up to this point and pioneering new paths of development and innovation. They want to serve as a catalyst to connect minds from around the world and inspire participation around shared challenges. So the sub-themes of Expo 2020 are mobility, sustainability, and opportunity. At the core of the Expo 2020 master plan for the gated expo area, the three distinct zones, each dedicated to one of the sub-themes. It'll all converge on a central El Wasl, which is like meeting point, plaza, and be the literal heart of Expo 2020. Okay, so a lot of people, the reason why we put this webinar together and the reason that we decided to host a trade mission focused on Expo 2020 is because the opportunities are really endless. So let's just look at the opportunities within the Expo Center site. And just one segment of that, let's look at construction. So to construct this massive campus that the Expo site will be set on, think about just construction. They're going to need architects and engineers. They're going to need MEP services. They're going to need construction machinery. They're going to need construction materials. They're going to need temporary housing for the influx of workers that they're going to need to construct. They're going to need landscape, design and implementation, design. I mean, when you really think about this, the demand and the opportunity is tremendous. And that's just within construction I'm talking about. Then think about security. Think about the pressure it'll put on needing more water, clean water, greater energy demands, sewer, wastewater. I mean, it's quite incredible if you think about the undertaking to prepare for Expo 2020, and that's just talking about within the Expo site. Okay, I gave a slide to this statement all on its own because I found it to be quite incredible. The next 6 years, UAE could attract as much as $150 billion in foreign direct investment across a range of industries. Just think about that number, 150 billion US dollars. Wouldn't it be great for your company to get a little bit of that? And the industry sectors that they've identified are financial services, infrastructure, construction, real estate, hospitality, tourism, and transportation. And within each of those sectors, there are tons of verticals that demand will be created in. So then if we take, in not talking specifically about the Expo 2020 site, let's think about the pressure and the demand this is going to put on UAE in general. Virtually every aspect of life there's going to be some pressure put on our resources and demands as a nation to support Expo 2020. Dubai is expecting to invest 22 billion dirhams in infrastructure-related projects in the run-up to Expo 2020, creating 277,000 new jobs, which is great for our economy here. A huge new airport project is underway, roadworks, extension of the current metro system, and general transportation improvements. That's the first point. Okay, let's look at housing, hotels, and attractions. 45,000 additional hotel rooms will be added to the existing 82,000 room supply to accommodate the large number of non-UAE visitors for Expo 2020. Dubai already has fabulous hotels. Those of you who are listening who have been here, I'm sure you are nodding your heads. They are incredible hotels. The thing that they are looking at now, though, to support Expo 2020 visitors is not so many stars. I mean, we have the only 7-star hotel in the world. We don't need 7 stars. We need 3 to 4-star hotels. We need family-friendly hotels. At this point, there are not many hotels down towards the site of the Expo 2020. So they're going to be looking at a geographic area that needs to be developed specific for Expo 2020. So the total investment in hotel capacity required for Expo 2020 is estimated to be US $7.2 billion. So again, we've done infrastructure, we've done housing, hotels. Let's think about water and power. By the beginning of the year 2020, Dubai's electricity consumption is expected to reach 9.6 gigawatts. That's a 50% jump from 2012. And although Dubai, as part of the whole Expo 20 sustainability theme, is trying to reduce their energy demand by 30% in the coming years, the anticipated consumption levels create a major challenge for Dubai in hosting Expo 2020. So they are looking in the run-up to Expo a mix of energy independent coal, nuclear, and solar sources. They're planning various independent power projects, including the development of a second phase of its 100 megawatt solar park. The first phase was actually built by a U.S. contractor, and a 1,200 megawatt clean coal-fired system. So that's just kind of an overview of the UAE-wide preparation and demand on our resources. This is just infrastructure, hotels, and energy, but there's really opportunity everywhere. I was pausing to have a drink of Coke. So I wanted to show you a couple of the mega projects that are going on. I mean, I've lived here for 26 years. I've seen some incredible projects. But me looking at these developments and these projects that they're putting up right now, even I am just like kind of in awe. This Dubai Water Canal, it's in full swing. It's a 73.4 billion dirham project connecting Business Bay with the Persian Gulf. But you don't call it the Persian Gulf over here. It's called the Arabian Gulf. So if you come over here, bear that in mind. We live on the Arabian Gulf. And the canal system will run from the sea right through the heart of Dubai. This is a mega project that includes shopping centers, 4 hotels, 450 restaurants, luxury housing, parks, cycling paths. It's expected to provide new areas measuring 80,000 square meters for public places and facilities, as well as private marinas for boats, and a new trade center at the entrance of the canal. The development phases of this project, the initial phases of this project the contracts have been awarded. The first one was to a Chinese company, the second one was to a Turkish company, and the third phase was awarded to an American firm. So just by looking at that little fact, you can see that the UAE government and the planners are not just basing things on American-made goods and services, and they will pay top dollar for certain levels of expertise that they need, but they do expect things to be competitive. That's why you see the Chinese and the Turks, and you'll see French companies and so forth. But with that American firm doing the third phase of this project, there's going to be opportunities. The second one on the screen, the Jewel of the Creek. It's a 3 billion dirham project. It's been awarded in a package of 8 contracts worth $1.45 billion. And the contractor is Hubtour Lighting Group, which is a British company. They are awarding additional contracts on an ongoing basis for completion of 5 hospitality buildings, hotels, service apartments, restaurants, a marina, including 4-foot bridges and one regular bridge. I've only put 4 projects up here because, I mean, I could just put slide after slide after slide of these mega projects, but these 4 kind of jumped out at me just because they looked really cool too. So Aladdin City. It's a Dubai municipality project inspired by the tales of Aladdin and Sinbad. The project has 3 towers, commercial and hotel space. It'll also have air-conditioned bridges with moving floors to connect the towers and to the driveways into the parking lots. And the shape of the bridge that will link the buildings represents the form of exotic marine life, such as dragons and snakes. Which made me pause. Okay. Really classified as marine life, but anyway. I want to see what that the linking bridges look like, these dragons. Okay, so El Hubtour City is the last project I put up here. It has more than 3,000 hotel and residential units on one plot, 3 branded hotels, and a permanent Franco Dragon Entertainment Group water-themed production. So all very fancy, all big, major mega projects. So I've lived in UAE for 26 years, and yes, I have seen a lot of change. That is probably the first thing people ask me after I tell them I've been here as long as I have. One thing I have come to accept is that if Dubai says something, they will make sure it happens. They will always go big. And when I read, for instance, that UAE is going to space, they're going to go to Mars, it did not surprise me, and I don't doubt it for a second either. When I look at these mega projects, while it exhausts me even thinking about anyone getting this work done, I do believe it will be done, and I know they cannot do it alone. So the potential for U.S.-UAE trade in goods and services is tremendous, as long as the American companies are taking the initiative to come over here and let them know that they're interested in working with them. So let's just step back once more, thinking about these mega projects. Think about all those hotels. In every hotel, they're going to need linens, they're going to need pictures for the walls, they're going to need carpets, they're going to need blinds, they're going to need fixtures, they're going to need paint, they're going to need sound systems for their theaters, they're going to need grand pianos, they're going to need how many boats to fill those marinas? Then you think about, okay, what about healthcare? That's another sector. You're bringing in so many people, not only to build it, but to actually come to Expo once it's hosted. That's going to demand for hospitals, clinics, medical equipment, medical supplies, medical doctors. I mean, there's going to be a need to import, specialty doctors to staff these places. So you see what I mean by head-spinning, mind-boggling opportunity. Think about it. Where's the opportunity for your company? What's your USP, and where will be your easiest point of entry? So I've tried to give you a scope, an overview, the big picture, so you can see how your company fits into this puzzle. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about Expo 2020 and the U.S. Pavilion. So at Expo 2020, each nation will have their own pavilion, and it's a big, major deal. And the U.S. State Department will select a private sector partner to work with the U.S. government to develop and implement an official American presence at the Expo. Now, this is a bit tricky for us for Expo 2020 because the U.S. is approaching an election cycle, and the current administration won't prioritize Expo 2020 because a new administration will mean a new Secretary of State. So the Expo 2020 will be under the watch of the
broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello? It's okay? Okay. We had a funny announcement there. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please pause. No, I'm just going to keep talking and just hope that you're out there listening somewhere. Dear diary. Okay, so as I was saying, with the U.S. Pavilion at Expo 2020, it's a bit challenging because the Obama administration will be out by the time Expo 2020 gets around. We'll have a new Secretary of State. And so although preparation for the U.S. Pavilion is a massive undertaking, with planning and execution taking years, the time for Dubai Expo prep, the U.S. Pavilion, is limited because of this. There have been several local U.S. affiliated organizations already making a play for this position as the private sector partner to the U.S. State Department, but it won't happen anytime soon because of the above. And the UAE government will not engage with a private sector player. It will only work government to government. So there's no way for any of us to come in and say, hey, we need more time, let us work with you. So that's not even an option. Then there's the challenge of funding a U.S. pavilion. Most countries fund their participation directly. So like China pays for its own pavilion, the U.S. does not. So your tax dollars are not going to fund these pavilions around the world, if that's a concern. It all comes from private corporate funding. So think about the big multinational U.S. companies like GE, Boeing. They're the ones who actually put up the money to build this and staff this tremendous U.S. pavilion. The picture that I put up there is from Expo 2015 Milan, and I read up on that. I mean, they're going to have American food trucks there. It's just going to be so incredible. But I mention this because if you feel more comfortable dealing as a U.S. company with another U.S. company, your easiest market entry point may be in cooperation with development of the U.S. pavilion. And considering the time restrictions that we're going to be under to get this U.S. pavilion pulled together in time, I foresee that they're going to need lots and lots of help, and they're going to need it very quickly. So, market entry. How many of you remember this game show, How to Make Money in the Middle East? So how does a U.S. company enter the market? Well, it really depends on your specific industry, what the best route to market will be for you. And I could, again, do separate webinars on each industry and industry vertical, but I can't really go into too much specifics today. Typically, though, you would find a distributor or partner who would represent your products or services in the market. This is the most common market entry, and then once you develop this relationship and your products become, you start gaining more of a market share or developing more of a revenue stream from this region, your next step would be actually to come here and set up an office, maybe a business development office of your own. But the first step is usually identifying a partner that you can work with who's on the ground here. There's a possibility that you could identify a partner who may have strengths in more than one country in our region, because if you look at the map, you'll see that countries like Bahrain are just like a blip, and Qatar is quite small. UAE is such a major market, although it's not big in comparison to a market like Saudi, but because it is a major re-export point and transshipment hub, a lot of volume goes through UAE. But it's not uncommon that you could find a distributor who could handle more than one market. For instance, one of our companies is a distribution company of tech products, and we represent the brand Skull Candy. And we represent Skull Candy exclusively throughout the whole GCC. So there's always that possibility. So the most important keys to success in our market is showing up. Remember what I said about price sensitivity, but more importantly about relationship building. It's not just in UAE, but in all the GCC countries. They want to see your face. They want to know that their business is important enough to you that you will come to their country to develop a relationship with them. A great way is to come on a trade mission, and I'm not just trying to sell you something here. Yes, I would love it if you joined our trade mission, but I just want you to join any trade mission, to participate in a trade show, to come for a market visit on your own. mean, we do that all the time with different companies, arranging pre-vetted appointments whenever they're available to travel here. It's just about showing up. And then you show up once, and you show up again and again, and pretty soon you've established those relationships, and the business is starting to sustain itself, and you're starting to see regular revenue flow from this region. Who knows, you might relocate like me. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how our trade mission works. Some of you may have been on a trade mission before, and others you may have not. But as a point of reference, we are hosting a trade mission in April. And we tend to like to work with the companies who are coming to visit us for these missions 4 to 6 weeks in advance, because we really need to understand your business. We need to be able to look at your traditional route to market and identify where the easiest points of entry are going to be for you. Like you may do A, B, Z, D, W, X, Y services, but if we listen to what you do, we can probably pinpoint which of those segments of your business are going to be the easiest and the easiest ones to promote here to get business started. So we spend time with you on the phone to understand. There's a lot of back and forth, and then we begin to identify potential partners, agents, distributors for you to meet with while you're here, which basically cuts down the whole process tremendously for you, and it allows us to offer our expertise in terms of telling you that this is a good match for you rather than you trying to just kind of like throw a dart in the dark. As part of a trade mission, in addition to the meetings that you have, you'll participate in country briefings, networking events, and another great thing about coming on a trade mission is that you learn a lot just from your trade mission colleagues as you attend meetings and share insights throughout the week. You meet up afterwards, you go out to dinner, just the kind of things that you find surprising or things that you learn in your meetings. You tend to talk to your other company colleagues, and I've seen a lot of learning go on just at that level. Our company will manage the logistics, we'll coordinate your transportation. There's a reason that we call ourselves professional handholders and training wheels. Our staff is on hand with you all week to answer questions that come up during your meetings, to help you interpret the outcomes and advise on how to move forward. And then we offer you 6 weeks of support following the trade mission to advise you on making the most of your visit. So if a lead goes cold, or you're having trouble understanding something, or if you get a distribution contract and you want some advice or feedback on it, what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, that's part of what we do after in the 6 weeks that follow the trade mission. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I can't stress enough how one face-to-face meeting will be more valuable than 50 emails. And of course, we do want you to join our trade mission, but overall the best advice I can give you is to come to the region with or without our help. This is going to be key to your success. It just can't be done long distance. And we've been hosting trade missions and trade show delegations for years. We know what makes a successful market visit for our clients. I know that the end of April, when we are hosting this mission, it sounds like it's going to really way too soon. But I have to tell you, it's better now than later. And SMEs that we work with can be more nimble with their planning than their giant Fortune 500 companies. And the other thing is there are funding programs within some states, like Michigan, for example, that will offset the cost for you to explore new markets and attend trade missions. So if you need information on the trade program within your state, if you want to drop us an email, we would be happy to put you in touch with the economic development folks in your state to see what kind of grant programs might be available for you. So last but not least, just some general housekeeping before we take questions. Access to the webinar recording will be on our website and on our LinkedIn page. And information about our trade mission, you can email Arshi at channelsmea.com or Mohit, M-O-H-I-T, at channelsmea.com. If the trade mission dates, again, are not convenient, we can work with you on an individual market visit. In addition, we do market reports, distributor searches, blah, blah, blah. Anything that we can do to ease your GCC market entry, we're prepared to do. So, questions, anyone? I've already rambled on for 45 minutes. My throat is dry. You can either type your questions in the chat box, or you could open up your voice box and unmute yourself. We'd be happy to hear your questions. So my trusty Vanna White assistant just informed me that there was some trouble with the audio at certain points, which I'm very sorry about. But you know what? I just sit at the top of the float and wave. These other people are supposed to make this technology work. So we have recorded this webinar, and it will be on our website and on our LinkedIn page, so you can go and re-watch it. And we will email it to you as well, a link. And if you want to share it with other people within your company, that's a good way to do that as well. So nobody has any questions? I was just so thorough that you have no questions. Come on. Oh. Okay, so please explain the Expo 2020 opportunities again, is one of the questions at 7:48. Oh, that's a lot of slides to go back through. How about if we just emailed this webinar to you, the recording, and then you guys can you can listen to the webinar recording, and then if you have questions, just email us your questions. That probably will be easiest. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, well, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to work with American companies. It's always, I see that we have a lot of companies from Michigan, so I do want to thank Michigan and MEDC in Michigan for promoting this webinar. And I just am happy to see, I'm really happy if we can help Michigan companies, being that I'm a Michigander. So if you have any questions, you want to join our trade mission, or if we can be of any service to you in the future, we are happy to do so. Okay, so I'm going to answer one question. I just got one more. I just received a question. Nick is saying that he was at the Dubai Gulf Food and he had a lot of inquiries, but he was not able to close some deals. This is typically what happens when you come to a trade show. You end up with about enough business cards to wallpaper your guest bathroom when you get home. And so that is quite a challenge to kind of weed out the real quality leads from just the general. I mean, I was at Arab Health. I was not at Gulf Food because I gain weight just walking in the door of Gulf Food, so I tend not to go to Gulf Food. But I was at Arab Health, and I was standing at one American booth, and some guy just walked by and just kind of threw his business card on the counter, and I thought to myself, seriously? You know, are people really thinking they're going to do business by just tossing a business card down? So I do understand that it's really difficult to try to sort that out. You can either go ask for support and help from a company like my own, or you have to do your own due diligence and check the background of these companies to see if they're a good, go to their websites and see if they're a good match for your products or services. Number two, you have to be very, very patient because the pace of business here is much slower. A lot of times American companies will give up because they think that the Middle Eastern company is not interested because they're not responding, but that's not necessarily true. They're just not very much an email-based business society. Pick up the phone. If it's a company you're really interested in talking to and you've met with them, pick up the phone. That's another way of extending your interest in developing a relationship. But basically, I mean, that's really my answer. It's a lot of homework. It's a lot of persistence. Are there any key sectors for 2020 that you should be paying attention to? Basically, every sector is a key sector. So we talked about construction, we talked about infrastructure, we talked about all the subsectors within those industries. We talked about hospitality. We talked about energy, clean energy. I mean, with the themes of sustainability and mobility, I mean, they've got huge projects in a huge new airport coming up. Really, it's just kind of a big blob of opportunity. I mean, no matter what you do, whether you do grand pianos or what was the company from Michigan we were talking to? There's a boat company. There's opportunity there. There's another company that does those dust-free bulk bin. Do you remember DCI? I think it was DCI. Yeah. DCI. I mean, there's just opportunity in every sector. It's just a matter of saying, okay, this is what I do. How would it fit? If you want to send us an email question to say, hey, this is what my company does. Do you think there's opportunity, or what do you think the size of opportunity is here? We'd be happy to answer. I mean, I got into this business because I like to help. I just happened to be persuaded to turn it into a business where I could make money from helping. But really the key to what I do and kind of why I do what I do is because I love to help. So if you just have a question you want to run by us by email, I'd be happy to answer. Expo 2020, I'm just reading questions, so if I go quiet, that's why I'm quiet. Expo 2020 is 6 months long. And it is from the fall of 2020 to the spring of 2021. But so all of the projects, all the development in preparation for Expo 2020 is actually going on now. Anybody else has any questions before we sign off? Okay, well, I would like to say thank you again. It's always a pleasure, and we will make sure that you get emailed the complete webinar audio